Good evening, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is 7 o'clock p.m. It is Friday night. That can only mean, of course, one thing. Time for our weekly 1 hour live stream. What's up, Steve? Milan? Oh, you're up late, my friend. Mark, Matt, Wolf, how is everyone doing this week? How has your week been? Mine was busy, busy, busy. Best way I can describe mine. Let's see. Get something going here. Joining us on the shelf this week, all hail Her Highness. The Queen Mary is here. She hasn't been with us in a while. So it was time to take a look at the Queen again. And let's see, on the next shelf we have another Cunard ship, Mauritania, and right next to her, USS New Orleans. And at the bottom, certainly, well, last but certainly not least, BB-39, USS Arizona, which is the thumbnail for this week's stream. Aaron is here too. Welcome aboard, Aaron. Mark says, good but rainy week. Oh, yikes. I'm trying to get Discord up because I've got something in there that I need in order to show you guys something. Bear with me a sec here, guys. It doesn't want to cooperate. Let's see. Oh, never mind. I won't need it. So, we're going to start off this week looking at footage like we always look at, of course. Milan says, my week was a bit boring. Couldn't wait for it to finally be over. Like I said, mine was just super, super busy. But anyway, let's get rolling here. And we have a new ship to look at this week. I put off the call last week, of course, as you guys know. If anytime you guys want to submit ship footage for the stream, you are certainly more than welcome to do so, and Milan did so. We are looking at the USS Oklahoma, and there she is. Looking not all that dissimilar from the Arizona, even though they are not the same class. Let's see, Mark says, good but rainy week. It's been hot as hell here. Let's see, Mark. Debbie went through today in flooding and lots of trees. Oh, you're talking about the storm, Debbie. Wolf says, my week was pretty good. Glad to hear it. Milan, yay, my footage. Absolutely. Like I said, anytime you guys want to submit some footage, and Matt had an idea for a different type of footage that he's planning to submit. I don't have that yet, but hopefully by next week we will have that. Speaking of which, Mark says she capsized in Pearl Harbor. Yes, Oklahoma most certainly capsized in Pearl during the Pearl Harbor attack. Speaking of which, last night I managed to get the Benson, which is a destroyer, American destroyer in warships. In the game, it's a Tier 8 ship, and I did not have enough time to really get any good footage for the stream tonight, so you can look forward to that next week. I'm on talking about the Oklahoma. Says, yep, then they rolled her back and wanted to tow her back to the mainland to be scrapped, but sank in a storm. There is a picture, guys, that I saw. It might have been yesterday or day before. Big Whiskey, USS Wisconsin, was sitting right next to the Oklahoma. And guys, there was just, the Wisconsin just dwarfs the Oklahoma. Because, I mean, we're talking about a Nevada class sitting right next to an Iowa class. And, you know, those Iowa class ships were monsters. So, Clips Films Melbourne, welcome. It's been days after 79th USS Indianapolis sinking. Did you still have a chance to watch Mission of the Sharks? No, I have not seen that, Clips. I have to find out what type of or what streaming service that's on to and see if I have it.
Problem solved, sir.
Milan says, I know that picture. The size difference is amazing, right? Wolf, I remember seeing that photo a while back. So you guys are familiar with that photo. Hey, is Steve? Are you still here? By the way, I got a question for you, Steve. Let's see. Clip says the wreck of Oklahoma. There's nothing much, but if the wreck is damaged more as Nevada. Well, Nevada was part of Bikini Atoll, so. You know, she didn't, they didn't do her any favors by making her part of that test. Clip says, Mission of the Sharks is available to watch on YouTube. Okay, let me write that down. So I will try to watch that, because if it's about the Indianapolis, I'm definitely interested in watching that. Mission of the Sharks. Okay, Steve. So, guys, for those of you who know me, who have known me for a while, and followed the channel for a while, you know that the best month of the year is less than 2 months away, that being October. Halloween is my favorite holiday. And we are looking to do some horror-themed stuff during October, at least as far as the live stream goes. Steve, I need to get with you because I've been wanting to do this, and October is when I wanted to do it. I want to bring you on for one of the live streams, and we're going to talk about the ghost stories of the Queen Mary. I know you know quite a bit about that topic, so I think that would be a really fun, cool discussion to have. So let's talk about that. Let me know what your schedule is, basically, for October. Clips of the wreck of Oklahoma is in one piece. It's better left her resting place, and it's 100 years old. Yeah, well, they're not going to raise that ship. I don't think any ship, sunken ship, is going to be raised, to be honest. Mark, yay, ghosts. Steve, haha, sure. Yeah, that's going to be a fun episode. Don't get tipsy before we record that. Here's something interesting, guys. This is not ship related, but I thought this was worthy of mentioning because the name of this live stream is History TV. Today in history, 50 years ago today, Vice President Gerald Ford was sworn into office as the President of the United States. Richard Nixon officially resigned from the presidency today, 50 years ago, and he is the only president to have ever resigned the presidency. So I thought that was worthy of giving a mention to. And let's see. So here we're gonna take a look at the New Orleans here for a bit too. Milan says, "Do you know about Project Britannica? It's an analog horror about old ocean liners such as the Olympic class or Lusitania. You might want to check it out in October." Definitely remind me of that, Milan. I would definitely be interested in checking that out. Clips says, looking back when Michael Bay filmed set of Oklahoma, though the shape of turret is a bit cruiser shape and bow is it really any surprise that Michael Bay got anything wrong in that movie? No, because the vast majority of that stuff he got wrong. He was like in the Doolittle raid, and I don't remember all the details. They were using ships that in that movie for the Doolittle raid that hadn't even been built yet. I remember that much. You know, I've said this before. If you want a history lesson about Pearl Harbor and kind of World War II or the Doolittle raid in particular, do not watch that movie. That movie was built for entertainment purposes only, and that's shady at best as well. Let's see. Aaron says, Aaron, I'm old enough to remember. He's talking about Watergate. Mark missed it by 2 years. Aaron, I was 7 years old. Wow. Steve, when 12 noon Eastern came, Ford was sworn into office. Nixon was aboard Air Force One over Kansas, heading to California. Is Nixon from California, Steve? Do you know? I know Reagan was from California. I don't know why if he wasn't going, if he's not from California, do you know why he was headed there? Steve, he also says it is the only time that the call sign Air Force One changed mid-flight to Sam 26,000. And Nixon is, in fact, from California. Steve just confirmed that for us. Okay. Nixon was also vice president. Wasn't Nixon vice president to Eisenhower? Am I remembering that correctly? Aaron says he lived in San Clemente, and Steve says he was born in Yorba Linda. Never heard of that town before. So, got an interesting one for you guys. Karen is here. Hello, welcome. Steve says yes. Okay. Yeah, Nixon was vice president to Eisenhower. That's right. So, guys, I've got one for you guys that I know you're going to find incredibly interesting. Well, let me read Clip's comment here first. Tora had good film sets. Nagato, first time before Titanic, 97. Stern of Nevada set looks so real that Michael Bay Pearl Harbor film sets in Mexico, even though some parts that haven't built years. Okay. Let's see. So, USA Today, guys, put out an article, a new article about the Titan sub. And I wanted to share that with you guys. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's really long. I will catch up with the chat again after. Moonser's in here real quick. He says, hey, James, I'm just coming to say hi. I cannot be on long. I'm hanging out with my family. So how you been? I'm great, Moonser. Hope you're doing well. Hope you guys are having some good family time. Hope your week has been great. Let's see. So yeah, let me pull up this article, guys. You're going to find this interesting, and then I'll come back and check up on chat as soon as I'm done reading this. So let's see. The headline of the article is "Doomed Crew on Titan Sub Knew They Were Going to Die," lawsuit says. And I'll catch up. I'll read all the main parts. The five people aboard a submersible excursion to the Titanic likely experienced terror and anguish moments before the vessel imploded deep in the North Atlantic last year, killing all aboard, according to a $50 million lawsuit filed by the family of a victim. Let's see. Skipping a paragraph, Paul-Henri Nargeolet was director of underwater research for the Titanic and had made dozens of trips to the site, more than 2 miles beneath the ocean's surface. The wrongful death lawsuit claims Nargeolet would not have boarded the Titan had the submersible's builder, OceanGate, disclosed crucial information about technical problems with the vessel. So it's the family of Paul-Henri Nargeolet that has filed this lawsuit. While the exact cause of failure may never be determined, experts agree that the Titan's crew would have realized what was happening, the lawsuit contends. Common sense dictates that the crew were all aware they were going to die before dying. Tony Busby, a lawyer for the family, said in a statement the family hopes the lawsuit will allow them to learn exactly how this happened, who all were involved, and how those involved could allow this to happen. Skipping on a bit. The lawsuit claims the Titan began dropping weights about 90 minutes into its dive in an apparent ill-fated effort to return to the surface. I did not know this prior to reading this article this morning. The crew may have well heard the carbon fiber's crackling noise grow more intense as the weight of the water pressed on Titan's hull, the lawsuit says. By experts' reckoning, they would have continued to descend in full knowledge of the vessel's irreversible failures, experiencing terror and mental anguish prior to the Titan ultimately imploding. Skipping on a bit. Going to come down to a bit more. It says the Titan tragedy has not ended the interest in exploring the Titanic. In July, RMS Titanic Inc. launched Titanic Expedition 2024, a crew including videographers, photographers, scientists, and historians from Providence, Rhode Island. Nargeolet was scheduled to participate in the current Titanic expedition. No crew members were visiting the wreckage, but two remotely operated vehicles were sent 12,000 feet deep into the Atlantic. The cameras would survey the sunken ship and take high-resolution images to preserve the existing state of the site digitally. The exploration team said in a social media post this week that it was headed home. Battling some rough seas today, the team said in a social media post this week, adding the waves are relentless, but Titanic Expedition 2024 crew is strong. I'm going to stop there for a minute. And let's see. Let me catch up on chat here. Aaron, known as Mr. Titanic, Nargeolet participated in 37 dives to the Titanic site, the most of any diver in the world. Clip says PH, who died, helped the Japanese expedition to find the Yamato. I did not know that. Aaron, my question is, Aaron says, so my question is, why did he go? Wolf says, how do they know this? These are the same questions I've got, guys. How could they possibly know that? Any of these things? Nobody survives. So, that's what I'm wondering. How Because we've been told, and there's no reason to not believe this, that when the implosion happened, it was lights out, faster than that, faster than I can snap my finger. That's how instant it was. Um, the only thing they're saying is that caught my attention was they said the sub started dropping weights, which means they were trying to ascend. They were trying to. Something was wrong. They were trying to come back up. Obviously, and sadly, it didn't happen in time. But how do they know that? Is that there's two different investigations going on? I know Canada's doing an investigation. The United States is doing an investigation. I don't know if France is involved in an investigation too, or Britain, because Nargeolet was French, and Hamish Harding, which was a British millionaire or billionaire, also died on the sub. So I don't know if those two countries are involved as well. But it raises some interesting questions. How do they know that? Um, how do they know that the sub dropped weights? Is that part of the ongoing investigation? And could they have even heard, like, bending or cracking in the hull? This is the thing that we're never going to know. Is what was the reason why? And maybe we will know. I don't know. What was the reason why they dropped weights? Was it because of what the lawsuit suggests? That they are experiencing issues with the hull, or was it some other reason? That's that's what I think that's a question that needs to be answered. Clips says, "Raise the Titanic movie. Starfish submersible implodes was a lesson, but the film was underrated until internet made the film popular despite fiction, but salvaging large ship for a far future, some sci-fi." Honestly, Clips, I thought that movie was terrible. I saw it, and the only part of the movie worth watching is where they actually raised the ship, and that the model that they used in that movie it still exists, but it's in some country, not the United States. I forget which country, and it's just essentially rotting away, which is a shame because I think that would be something cool to preserve somewhere. Let's see. Mark says you don't build and use a sub in the shape of a capsule. Well, and that's true too. Now, and that's I don't know anything about the submersibles they use in deep sea exploration. Until this tragedy happened. And we've been told ever since this, um, by people who have successfully dived it over and over and over and over again. James Cameron being one of them. Your submersibles have to be spherical. It basically has to be in the shape of a ball because of the intense water pressure that's coming on all sides. I guess that makes it like evenly distributed. Whereas the Titan sub was more like a capsule, almost like a capsule you would take for medicine. Aaron says there's a chat transcript I can find, but cannot be confirmed. It does mention dropped weights, etc. Let me look for it. Okay, well, that's good because, again, I had not heard that until today when I read that article this morning. Mark says the transcript says they were dropping weights because they were dropping too fast and they heard the cracking. Okay. I definitely want to read that transcript. If somebody can post that in the Discord, I would really like to read that. Steve says the book was far better concerning Raise the Titanic. I wonder if there's an audio book on that. I've had a lot of time to listen to audio books lately. I wonder if there is a Raise the Titanic audio book. Okay. Right, I'm writing notes. Aaron says, yes, Mark, that may be true. Question mark, interesting. Clip says, down periscope depth charge was one thing comes to mind. It did demonstrate the strong scene when USS Stingray hull squeezed by the water. Steve, there was unconfirmed reports that communication with the Titan was becoming disrupted and reporting noise. But see, that Steve wasn't a red flag for me, even if that did happen, because I know on prior expeditions to the wreck they had communication error or issues. So we're switching over to BB-39 here, guys. USS Arizona, and again, Arizona is the thumbnail for the live stream this week, and there she is again on the shelf right there. By the way, BB-39, looking great as always. Mark says, yes, Raise the Titanic book was a ton better. Interesting. Steve says, by the way, I believe Cameron is wanting to return to Titanic with submersibles. That would not surprise me at all if Cameron goes back to it. I think he's dived. Last count I heard from him was that he dived to the wreck 33 times. Now, that's been a while since I heard that, so I don't know how updated, that quote from him is. Lon says, Arizona. Yes, BB-39, guys. Looking great as always. Clip says, 500 feet Baleo class was limit to 400 feet, and Gatto can go 300 feet limit. Yeah. And again, those were not intended for deep sea because, look at their shape. Those are World War II U.S. Navy submarines. Wolf says, gotta love Arizona. Mark says, yay, Arizona. How can you not? How can you not love the Arizona? I mean, she is a sight to behold. And I'm so looking forward to being done with Britannic, with my model of Britannic, and I'm over halfway done with that, by the way. Because that 1 to 350 Arizona that I'm going to build is next on the list after I'm finished Britannic. Clip says 1941 is the year when large battle wagons got blown first. Hood and Russian battleship Merit and Arizona. Well, and one of the things I've always said this, Clips, in my view, World War II for the United States is bookended by two battleships. United States entered World War II because of the bombing of Pearl Harbor, and of course, the Arizona is the main thing that everyone remembers from that the most. The end of World War II for the United States was when the Japanese signed the documents of unconditional surrender. Where? On the decks of Mighty Mo, USS Missouri, BB-63. Mark says there's an expedition at the Titanic wreck site. Now, yes, Mark, that's the one they mentioned in the article. By the way, guys, I think, I was about to ask a question. I think Milan already answered it. Milan says, RMS Titanic just finished doing dives with ROVs. They even invited James Panka from Titanic Honor and Glory. They surveyed the wreck to see what could be salvaged in the future. Yeah, so I was going to ask, isn't this the same expedition, excuse me, that James Panka is on? And there's my answer. Clip says USS Pennsylvania wreck can be found. Last sighting, she rolled to starboard after atomic bomb test. Imagine how many ships they could have, how many more museum ships we could have had they not been used in Bikini Atoll. Oh, speaking of couple of things, guys. We are in August, And this month is the month that the kid is actually finally supposed to go into the dry dock. She's been at the shipyard since May, but she's been pierside, and they've been doing work on the ship while she's pierside. But this month is the month she is actually supposed to physically go into the dry dock to get that work done. Also, I saw the New York Times released a big write up today on Susan Gibbs. If you don't know who Susan Gibbs is, she is the granddaughter of William Francis Gibbs, the designer and architect of the Big U, SS United States. And I've not yet read that piece, but as I understand it, it's more about her than it is the ship. But I'm sure the ship is going to come up in the article as well. Also, concerning the Big U, I saw a thing earlier today. They have now raised $175,000 of what they're trying to raise to save the ship. That's a lot of money, but there's a downside to that. You see, we are August 8th today. That's today's date. They roughly have about a month left to raise the rest of the money that they're trying to raise and still have to find a new berth for the ship. As far as I know, they have not found a berth yet. I'm sure they would have announced it if they did. Also, they still have to raise another $325,000 to reach the goal that they set of $500,000. Whether or not they can do that in a month, I hate to be the pessimist, guys, but I don't know. I kind of have my doubts on that. Oh, let's see. Going back to the Titanic discussion, the expedition, Mark says, hopefully they salvage lots of things before they are gone. The main thing I want out of there is the Marconi equipment. And I really think they should be able to get that out of there and put it in one of the Titanic museums for it to be preserved. Concerning the Bikini Atoll, Wolf says California should have been preserved. Change my mind. Why would I try to change your mind, Wolf, when I agree with you? So somebody has to change my mind as well. Mark says, I wish USS Pennsylvania was still around. I agree with that, Mark, and I know that's where you're from, so that's why you feel that way. I wish BB-19 would still be around. Then I could have my USS Louisiana. Or if the Montana class would have been built, we would have a Montana class USS Louisiana BB-71, and that would be incredible. Ozzy's here. Welcome, Ozzy. How's your week been? Wolf says, that really worries me. Yeah, going back to the Big U. Steve says, still waiting from the judge for the extension they requested. Yes. So, and I mentioned this before, the Conservancy has submitted to the courts a request for an extension to keep the ship where it's at until December. The judge said they have to be out of there by next month. They're asking if they can stay there till December. As far as I know, and no decision has been made on that. Or if it's been denied, they're not saying anything. So we will see. Steve also says if they reach $250,000, a corporate donor will match it. I did not know that. So they're at 175 right now. If they can raise another 75, that gives them 250,000, and a corporate donor will match it. So that's actually great news, guys. I didn't know that, Steve. Thank you for sharing that. So really, they just need to raise. They've got to raise another 75,000 in a month for that donor to match it. Keep the faith, guys. Keep the faith. Clip says, do you think Clive Palmer is kind of Ponzi over replica Titanic? I think it's not worth it. You have to take Clive Palmer, anything that comes out of his mouth with a grain of salt. He's been talking about making a Titanic 2 for what, like 15 years or so? I mean, the guy even talked about doing Jurassic Park. So, uh, idiot. I mean, maybe not idiot, but, put your money where your mouth is because you're supposedly the guy with the bucks to do it. So, I don't really pay any attention to Clive Palmer. Mark, I'm going to watch It 2017. It was a great movie. Steve can make alcohol from potatoes. Well, a lot of vodka is made from potatoes. So, Steve, let's have some vodka after. Clip says it's have smaller vessels like HMS Bounty replica when it comes to ships go such dangerous storms by bad decisions. Oh, guys, speaking of which, there's one last piece of that article about the Titan sub that I need to read to you guys. So, one of the second to last paragraph, it says this. The Titanic captured the nation's imagination in 1912, the largest and most well-appointed cruise ship of its time. It goes on. But the ship hit an iceberg on April 15th of that year and quickly sank, killing more than 1,500. About 700 passengers were rescued. The wreck was discovered on September 1st, 1985, about 400 miles from the coast of Newfoundland. Let me know when you guys catch that. Aaron says, I did send the transcript video to your Discord. Everyone should watch it. 6.9 million views. Okay. Yeah, here we go. All right, here we go. Milan, why do they always have to mix it up? And Wolf, cruise ship triggers me the most. There's two things in there. I don't know if you guys caught both things, but yes, cruise ship is the one that triggers me more than the other one. Mark, it didn't quickly sank. Took 2 hours and 40 minutes. Yeah. Compared to other ships, she did not sink quickly at all. But did you catch the other one, guys? Yeah. So she's not an ocean liner anymore. She's a cruise ship. I'd love to know when that happened. This is the issue, and people wonder why. And I hope I don't regret going into this. And people wonder why you can't even like legitimate news sources. You almost have to take with a grain of salt these days. So nobody noticed the other one. They said she hit the iceberg on April 15th, 1912. So she's a cruise liner or a cruise ship that struck an iceberg on April 15th, 1912. That's funny because for 112 years, the news has always been she was an ocean liner that struck an iceberg on April 14th, 1912. She sunk on April 15th. So, I mean, come on. Mark, oh, that drives me crazy when they call ocean liner cruise ships on Facebook. That drives me nuts anywhere, Mark. Steve, totally incompetent reporter. And you know, I sent in a comment correcting them, and they have still not changed their article. Ozzy, she hit the ice on April 14th, 1912. Correct. Why is it that a legitimate or supposedly legitimate news source cannot accurately report information that is 112 years old? Seriously. This is why people get sucked into BS conspiracy theories like the freaking switch theory and the mummy on the ship and God knows what else. Hey, you can tell I'm annoyed by it. And so it reminds me. It made me think of an episode. I don't know if you guys ever seen the TV show Supernatural, but I'm sure you've heard of it. They have an episode. It takes place in the present. They don't go back in time or anything, but it's a like a what if scenario. What happens? What would have happened if the Titanic missed the iceberg? Nobody died. People go. The survivors. They go on. They make babies. The babies make babies. So forth and so on. But it stands out to me because one of the main characters in the show refer to the Titanic as a cruise liner. First of all, she's an ocean liner. And there is no such thing that I'm aware of as a cruise liner. You have a cruise ship or an ocean liner. They are not the same thing. Anyway, Milan, what's next? They'll say she hit Godzilla. That artwork is kind of interesting. I'm sure we've all seen that. Wolf, people should know by now Titanic wasn't a cruise ship. Exactly. Now, the funny thing about that, if you want to talk about a ship that actually was both at different periods of her life, right there, Mauritania. Mauritania, for most of her life, was an ocean liner, as we know, but towards the end of her service career, she was used as a cruise ship. But her intended purpose, she was built to be an ocean liner. Titanic, at no point in its 5-day career, was never a cruise ship. Anyway, I'm ranting now. Cliff's liners, old-fashioned look back then, Queen Elizabeth II and Queen Mary II, maybe cruise, but it's still a liner by Cunard. Well, as we know, Queen Mary II is the last true ocean liner left in the world. And it's going to be interesting. Queen Mary II is 20 years old now. She's got to be at least halfway or more than halfway through her service life. What's going to happen when the Queen Mary II is retired? Is another ocean liner going to be built to take her place? Is that what the Queen Anne is? Is the Queen Anne an ocean liner? The brand new ship Cunard just launched. Or is she an ocean liner or is she a cruise ship? One of you guys might know. Maybe you can answer that for me. Mark says Titanic would most likely have been a trooper like Olympic. Well, possibly, Mark, but we'll never know because let's not forget the third sister was a hospital ship. So she could have been either or. Ozzy, she also mail carried. Well, yeah, she. That's how you get the RMS initials, Royal Mail Ship. You get the contract to carry the mail, you are a mail carrying ship. Wolf, Mauritania was the prettiest cruise ship. I don't know. I was not a big fan of that all white paint scheme that she was painted in. Maybe that's just me. Clips, I actually saw Queen Mary 2 in Australia. It's like seeing Poseidon from the movie. I'm guessing you're talking about the newer Poseidon movie, Clips. Milan says, Matt Pat once made a crazy theory on film theory that Jack was a time traveler to make sure Titanic sinks or the Germans win World War One. It's not a serious theory, of course. No, definitely not. Uh, Aaron says cruise ships are for cruising. Ocean liners break records. Steve says no, purely cruise ship hull, but Queen Elizabeth and Queen Victoria have reinforcement hulls to handle transatlantic crossings. Gotcha. Let's see. Wolf. Wow. That would have really been interesting. Wolf says, wonder what Titanic's dazzle paint would have looked like. Let's assume she didn't sink and she's a troop ship in World War One. We have HMT Titanic, guys. What would Titanic's dazzle scheme would have what would that have looked like? That wow. That would have been amazing seeing Titanic in a dazzle scheme. See, Steve says Maury too looked great in green goddess colors. I wasn't a fan of all that green, personally. Clip says UK doesn't have enough room to have large museum ships. They kept small and medium like HMS Belfast. Well, and it's funny, we have large museum ships here. You know, we've got all the battleships. And Steve's going to know, Steve will have a lot of knowledge about what I'm about to bring up. You know, this whole thing of what's going to happen when Midway, the Iowa, or the Queen Mary need to go into a dry dock for repairs, like what's all happening with Texas, New Jersey, and Kidd. There are no dry docks on the West Coast large enough to accommodate those ships, those three ships, when they are going to be in need for dry dock repairs. So what is going to happen then? That is something to eventually a question that's going to need some answering, and I don't know when, but eventually. Milan says, referring to Clip's comment, that's false. They would have plenty of room for it. They just lack the funds. Okay. Wolf says Titanic in a dazzle scheme would be very cool. Someone should make it. But here's the thing: would you put Titanic in a Olympics dazzle scheme, or do you come up with something original? Or maybe you could use a dazzle scheme from another ship. Now, and that's more interesting than what Titanic would be like as a hospital ship, because I've seen the other hospital ships besides Britannic. Then they're all pretty much painted the exact same way. Will says, odd there isn't large dry docks in the West Coast. There's not. So again, that raises an interesting question. What will happen to those three ships in particular when they are going to be in need of dry dock repairs? I don't know. Will says Titanic in its own made up scheme. If it's got the same color pattern as Olympic, that would definitely be interesting, because I love Olympic's color scheme in her dazzle. Milan says Mike Brady made artwork where he put a dazzle on Titanic, I think, even a hospital ship version too. He has a video where he presents an alternate history for time. I do remember that, Milan. It's been a very long time since I've seen that video. I might have to revisit that. Mark MV Georgic. Steve says the dry dock question. There are three on the Pacific: NSY Bremerton, BAES Bay Systems San Diego, and NSY Pearl. Okay, then I stand corrected. They have dry docks there, and Steve, you'll know better to this, because you're out there all the time. There was a reason. Was it that? And we had this discussion about any of those ships going into a dry dock, and there were either the dry docks there couldn't, or they wouldn't accommodate those ships. Let's see. Clip says floating dry dock for Queen Mary is way too expensive since World War II. Milan, want me to drop the link for that video in Discord? Yeah, go ahead. Steve says none of them will talk to any museum ship for work. Midway and Iowa were both denied. Steve, do we know why? Why is that? Why would the ships all be denied? Can you answer that for us? Well, it says, wonder when a Essex will go into dry dock. When it needs it, Wolf. Texas clearly needed it. New Jersey clearly needed it. Kidd clearly needed it. That's why those three are there. Steve says the Navy is too busy to do it, and BAE simply won't do it. Any reason? Like, I don't know. Did they give a reason why, or is it just they said no and end of discussion? I mean, they're not doing this work for free. They're getting paid for it. So I want to know the reason why they're saying no. Intrepid went into dry dock a few years ago. Okay. Oh, you got it. So they just said no. Simple as that. End of discussion. All right, whatever. I guess some people don't like money. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. Ark says like 5 years ago for USS Intrepid. Clip says Olympia needs dry dock. Well, the good news is if Olympia needs some dry docking, she can go to the exact same one that New Jersey just left because she's even closer to that dry dock than New Jersey is. Yeah, Steve says very frustrating. So, Steve, you mentioned three dry docks. So one of them, or BAE, whoever they are, they obviously don't like money, so they won't do it. Are the other two dry docks, are those both controlled by the Navy out there? Because you mentioned that the Navy is just too busy to do them. Are both of those run by the Navy? Because all the ones that are here, like Texas went to a private company for dry docking. I'm pretty sure New Jersey did as well, but I could be wrong on New Jersey. Kidd is definitely at a private dry dock. Thomas C is a private company. Um, you can correct me. You did the New Jersey dry dock tour, so you can correct me if I'm wrong on that as well. Getting some beautiful little camera angles here on Arizona, guys. Wolf Olympia sadly needs the money to go into a dry dock. Absolutely. And it wasn't an easy task for them to raise money to get the kid in the dry dock, but thankfully, they were able to pull it off. And we've got a guy in charge of the Kid Museum who is truly passionate about the ship and ships in general. We're talking about Park Stevenson. The guy's he's got grand plans for the museum as a whole in the long term. And if he did not become executive director of the Kid Museum, I'm not so sure the kid's in dry dock right now. So, thank God, we got somebody that cares enough about the ship to do all the things that he's doing. And the kid will be around, long after we are. Uh, let's see. Steve says, I believe they are still under U.S. Navy control, referring to the other two dry docks on the West Coast. Wolf, I hope Olympia being next to New Jersey doesn't affect the profits she makes in a negative way. Um, that's hard to say, Wolf, because that's one of the great things about in the case of New Jersey, she's not going anywhere. She will always be properly funded because she's a great big battleship, and that's what people want to see. Hopefully, that go to New Jersey, they're close enough to where they can see these other ships, and they will go tour these other ships. And Olympia's probably cheaper to tour than New Jersey as well. So hopefully, there are people like us, like, hey, I saw New Jersey, but you got all these other ships around here in the immediate vicinity. Let's go see them too. Steve says City of Philly owns the shipyard in Philly, but the Navy has some use of the yard for reserve fleet. Okay. Milan says should we check out Mike Brady's artworks of what if Titanic survived? I dropped the link of the video and also some timestamps for the libraries. I think it could be interesting for the stream. Maybe next week, Milan. We're going to be wrapping it up soon. We're almost at the 1 hour mark, and he says, "Yay, my Olympic video, of course." What a better way to close things out than with old reliable, right? Mark, yay, Olympic, yes, the beautiful. The old reliable, the only merchant ship to sink an enemy vessel in World War One. Let's see. Steve says North Atlantic Ship Repair leases the facility at Philly. Gotcha. That's interesting because, like I said, the Texas and Kidd are both at private shipyards. So, and like I said at the beginning of the stream, this is the month that Kidd is supposed to physically go into the dry dock. So hopefully that happens. Ozzy says Hawaii has a new big dock, the biggest. I don't think any of those ships are going to get towed out to Hawaii for dry dock repairs, though. So that's the problem. They need to figure out a way, and for Midway, Iowa, and the Queen I don't know when they're going to need dry dock repairs. As far as I know, there's been no discussions about it, so I don't know if they even need repairs right now. But when that time comes, they got to figure out something. Wolf, for some reason, I think the A-Team theme would fit Olympic ramming stuff. uh, there's a video I saw, and I forget. I don't know if it was like a clip from maybe some B movie or something, but there's actually like a made up footage of Olympic actually ramming the sub, and they've got the footage of the port side propeller slicing open the hull on U-103. So anyway, guys, we are at the 1 hour mark. I am going to go ahead and get ready to wrap things up here. Our content schedule is as follows. Our video of the week is every Friday morning at 7 Central U.S. time. I hope you guys check out this week's video too, because it is the National World War II Museum. We took a big look at the Arizona tonight. There is a fragment of the USS Arizona at the World War II Museum, and that is in the video. Let's see. Our random video short is Monday through Friday, every day at 11. And our weekly live streams are every Friday evening at 7 p.m. All times are U.S. Central Time. Matt says, I think they would have a setup like the Alabama where they don't need to be moved to be worked on. That may be what ends up having to happen, Matt. It's called a cofferdam. That's what the Alabama is in. They can drain it as they need and do repairs, fill it back up. Because technically, The Alabama is not floating. She's essentially sitting on the ground. There's just water around her to make her look like she's floating. Wolf. Olympic is the ship version of Mr. T. Olympic was looking down at U-103 and she's like, I pity the fool. Aussie Kid Alcohol, Steve. I'll be on tomorrow to talk. Excellent. Looking forward to it. All right. Okay. That's it, everyone. Thank you guys for attending and coming hanging out with me as always. Hope it was fun. Hope we got some good information out as always. Milan, get to bed. I know it's like super late for you. Thanks again for watching, guys, and as always, I'll see you next Friday, same time as always. And until then, enjoy your weekend, and you know the drill. Drive safely.